Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Big Idea. The U.S. mission to ASEAN started this show because we know that there are many, many leaders in Southeast Asia who not only have a big idea, but they turn that big idea into a reality, and they can inspire all of us. So I'm your host. I'm Jason Seymour. I'm the spokesperson for the U.S. mission. And I actually woke up this morning with a slight little tickle in my throat. And I was so nervous because I thought, no, today is the day that I get to talk to our guest, Glenn Benaguas, who is a science diplomat. And we have so many things to talk about. But I've got, those of you who watch the show know I've got my guava juice ready. And we are going to have a great conversation. I know Glenn has his water ready, but let's bring in Glenn. Are you there?
Yes, hi, Jason.
Excellent.
Thank you
Good
for having me.
afternoon, Glenn. So we have so much to talk about because you have accomplished so much and you are having such an impact on the Philippines, on Southeast Asia. You've had experiences in the United States. You are the recipient of a very special US government program. You were a US ASEAN Fellow for Science and Technology, for Climate Change and Sustainable Energy. That's a long title. You're going to help us understand what you do. So my first question for you, you describe yourself as a science diplomat. So please tell us all, what is a science diplomat?
Thank you very much for that wonderful question, Jason. If you are a science diplomat, this is what we do. We provide trainings. We provide. If you're a science diplomat, you are not only limited to your laboratories. If you're a science diplomat, you are trained to communicate science to the public, and definitely you're also trained to integrate science into the policies, and that is the essence of being an ASEAN science diplomat. So this particular science diplomacy program, anyway, I'm going to talk about it. The ASEAN science diplomacy program that I developed in 2016. All right, it's part of my activities in the plan of action as a U.S. ASEAN Fellow for Science and Technology. Now, I was thinking of a very sustainable project that will really empower our scientists and engineers on how they're going to communicate their science, their expertise to the people. Because that has been the challenge of the scientists, and that has been the challenge of our engineers, how they're going to communicate science and let the people understand the significance of science and how we're going to integrate science into the policy. And that's what I have been doing, training this science and engineers in Southeast Asia. And they are not the scientists and engineers; they are the outstanding scientists and engineers in Southeast Asia who have been creating positive changes in Southeast Asia. So that's what I have been doing. It's only one of the things that I do.
Yes, yes. I love the way that you put that, that scientists are not only limited to the laboratory. So when you go to nonprofits, NGOs, schools, private sector, and you're talking to so many different kinds of individuals, what are you trying to accomplish? What are some of your main goals to get out of that conversation or the trainings that you do?
Well, one of the trainings that I do, well, aside from the science diplomacy program, I have this another program that I developed more than a decade, more than 10 years ago. I call it the Climate Smart Philippines. And now it's Climate Smart and Disaster Resilient Philippines, which has been extended into Climate Smart and Disaster Resilient ASEAN. In this particular program is we train and capacitate different stakeholders and how they're going to be resilient and introduce sustainable programs and projects. Now, in the Philippines, I don't want to brag, I don't want to show off. I was able to capacitate more than 700 national government agencies, local government units in the country, more than 200 civil society organizations, non-government organizations, and even people's organizations, the community of farmers, fisher folks, indigenous people, or the youth, the women, the leaders, the church leaders, and I was able to capacitate more than 200 universities and colleges, plus more than 200 members of the private sector. So that's what I have been doing. So it is not just a training or capacity development. Part of what we do is, the Philippines, right? It is we experience different types of climate hazards and geohazards, and in order for us to be resilient, you have to empower our people. You have to introduce sustainable projects, and in order for me to do that, is to educate them to understand the essence that, even though they are farmers or fisher folks, even though they are not scientists, they can also make a difference, regardless their status in life.
And I think that's what you mean with this phrase, climate smart. So
Yes.
everyone can approach whatever profession that individual is doing in a smart way. But what are some general principles of climate smart, that
The,
phrase?
the general principle of climate smart Philippines, or climate smart disaster resilient Philippines, now ASEAN, it is more than a program. It serves as inspiration to create positive impacts on the society and environment. It's about your burning passion to be the change makers in the society. And that is the essence of the climate smart. You inspire people to create a difference. You inspire people to serve your country, to serve your own community.
Uh-huh. Now, training 700, I mean, yeah, it's not just limited to the 700 groups. You have gone to so many different groups, talking to them. Where does this passion come from? How long have you been passionate about science? Were you passionate about science as a child, or did that develop as an adult? Or tell us more about this passion that you have.
Oh, I really didn't. Actually, I didn't know how it started. When I was in college, I was part of the Student Catholic Action (SCA). When I was in college, it's a religious organization, and I was trained to take care not of their bodies, but to take care of their souls. And that is actually the step. It all started from there. All right, I was an engineering student at the same time. I was preaching the gospel, and how I am going to take care not of their bodies but their souls, of my babies. We call them babies, and and that's also the essence of being a scientist. All right, now I'm a scientist. How will I make a difference? How can I help my people? All right, to be resilient. How can I make significant contributions to the society? And for me, it will not always be about your profession. It is not about what you have finished. It's really about your contribution to make this world a better place. And if I can only do that if I am going to travel to different parts of the country. I can only do that particular advocacy if I will have the chance to empower 81 provinces, 135 cities, 1,493 municipalities, and 42,028 barangays. And I am not yet at the half. I still have to cover the half of the the 50%. I mean the 1,490 municipalities, because I was only able to capacitate around 700 LGUs, local government units, and there's still more things to be done. So I won't stop, and I think that's really part of my passion. That's really part of my advocacy. I've been doing that for more than a decade, for more than 10 years. And you know what? And everybody and some of my friends are aware that we have no budget for this. I do it for free. I do it in gratis. So um, and they are not aware that every time we travel, every time we provide that kind of empowerment and training and capacity building to our stakeholders, I usually get it from my own pocket, because as much as possible, I don't want my researchers want to uh, to spend even a single centavo. It has to be from my own pocket, and that's really also part of our collaboration with the stakeholders. All right, I will tell them I'm really very sorry. I will only go there if I have enough, because some of the money that I have, it comes from the salary, it comes from other consultancy projects. That's all. But specific project for that particular advocacy, there's no budget about it. I do it for free.
Mhm.
and you don't have to pay me.
I was very, very moved by what you were saying about how you want to make the world a better place. And what I always tell people who want to be leaders is find something that you're really, really passionate about. Because if you're really passionate about a particular cause, that is where the energy is going to come from. Because
Yeah.
everyone, I think everyone has a natural desire to make a difference, but you have to figure out what are your specific talents, where is the space where you can make a difference. For you, it's obviously about science and about climate change. And I'm wondering, when did you first start to detect that you had a talent for engineering, which is what you studied, or an interest in the sciences? Did
um,
that start in university, or did you have that before?
yeah, it took some time before I discovered what I really want to do.
Okay.
I was doing consulting. I was a consultant in an international cement company. So I was a consultant there for power and energy management. So I also did consultancy for water projects. So before I became an expert to climate change and disaster, I was doing all these consultancies, and I was thinking, it's there's an emptiness in my heart. So that's what I feel. I still feel that what what will I do? What are the things that I still want to do? And and until I became part of the Manila Observatory in 2010. So that made me decide, okay, this is what I want to do. Because there I was exposed to do some climate modeling, uh, to determine risk assessment, to assess the risk, all right, during the disasters. And and I discovered, okay, this is what I'm going to do. That's it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Because during disasters, you are not only concerned, you're not just going to focus into some few citizens or few people who are in perilous condition. Many people will die. Many people will suffer uh, due to the impacts and threats of climate change and disasters. And I said, this is what I want to do to my life. This is what I want to do to my life. This I think this will be my contribution. So after the Manila Observatory, I put up my own climate research institute. It's an organization. So I have 45 junior research scientists, and these are undergraduate researchers, undergraduate students. So I trained them to do climate modeling, right? Climate modeling in terms of rainfall and temperature, climate trends. I also taught them how to do risk assessment using different international or national frameworks from the United Nations International Disaster for Risk Reduction, or UNSDR framework. The risk as a function of hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. And I also taught them how to assess impacts, biophysical, socioeconomic impacts, the psychological impacts, and even the religiosity and spirituality as a form of climate change adaptation. And then I also taught them how to do policy analysis, meaning in order for a certain area or for a certain province or municipality to be climate smart and disaster resilient, you have to understand and you have to let people understand that it is not just about the models. It's not just about the framework, but it's also about the impacts that they experience. And these things are all part of what I do and what we provide to the communities.
I have a question about that. I have many more questions,
Oh,
but I want
really?
to remind our audience.
Okay.
I want to remind our audience that please, if you want to ask Glenn a question, please feel welcome to put your questions in the comments section, and I would be happy to ask your question of Glenn. But I do want to ask you, so you were talking about that you have to convince people that that this is, you have to convince people of the importance of this research. And sometimes that's difficult with disasters because on a normal day, there isn't a disaster. So you have to think in advance. You have to prepare in advance. Climate change, people may not feel the immediate impact on a particular day. So you have to spend time persuading people that this is important. And what are some tips you've learned along the way about how to persuade others?
Actually, that's really part of my convincing power. I do not know if I really have that gift, and thanks God I have that gift to win the hearts of our people, to win the hearts of our stakeholders. Part of what we provide is to understand their status. So definitely, this is part of the training of my research scientists. Every time we do the rollout, or every time we conduct focus group discussion, every time we ask them, you're not just gonna go there. This is what I always tell them. You are not gonna go there to get the information. You are going to go there because you want to help our people. That's it. Because if you're successful in winning the hearts of our stakeholders, you don't have to ask questions anymore. They will just tell it to you, everything that you want to know. For instance, the impacts of climate change to their lives, our farmers, fisher folks, indigenous people. What are the impacts? I am telling you, you don't have to ask questions anymore. All right, because the very first step is to win their hearts and let them understand that regardless of their status, they can always make a difference in their own communities. We experience all these things, and people will not share about their status, and people will not share about what is happening to them. So the very first step is to win their hearts, all right? To win their hearts, touch their hearts, because eventually they will just tell you what the information that you need, and you don't have to ask questions anymore. So that's the very first tip. So you don't just have to go there to get the information, all right? You have to go down to their level, and you have to let them feel that they are part of the solution. You have to let them feel that you have to let them realize that they can solve the problem in their communities no matter what their status is. So even though they're farmers, even though they're fisher folks, even though they belong to the indigenous people or to the tribe, they can always make a difference. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be an engineer. Again, like what I said, regardless of the profession, you can always make a difference. So once we tell these things to them, well, we became, it will just become, everything will just be natural, and you will be able to get their buy-in. So that's the tip that I'm going to, well, that's the very first step. It's the very first tip. There's so many things, right? There's so many
Yes,
things.
absolutely. And there was a very interesting element in what you were saying, that it's you have to communicate that we all contribute to the solution. Everyone
Yeah,
plays a role, and
yeah.
even if it's a small role, if you participate, you are helping your community. You're making a difference.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we do have a question. We have two questions actually. We'll take one at a time. This question is from Thomas, and Thomas asks, "Is there any similarity between climate disasters occurring across ASEAN countries?"
Oh, they're different. They're different because we don't. By the way, these are some of the things that we provide, the information we provide, because risk is different from a disaster. Because disaster will only occur if you have hazard, exposure, and vulnerability. So I just want to be very clear about it. So just explain it to our audience and to our listeners. Risk will only happen, or disaster will only happen, disasters, if there is hazard, if you are exposed, and there is vulnerability. So what do I mean by that? Hazards, these are the things that we experience. For example, climate hazards, your tropical cyclones, your flooding, sea level rise, your drought. Exposure, so who are exposed to these particular hazards? Definitely us, we individuals, and population in terms of household or individual. And in terms of vulnerability, that's also part of what we measure, all right? How vulnerable are you? And in the Philippines and in our research center, we use HDI, the Human Development Index, in terms of age, education, and income. And the other one is the poverty incidence. So if you have hazard, if you have exposure, and you have vulnerability, you put them all together, then you have the risk. Now, again, disaster risk is only going to happen if these three components or elements are are present. If one particular element is absent, then disaster is not going to happen. Now, in the ASEAN country, Philippines has its own climate hazards. All right. For example, if you talk about Philippines, Philippines has tropical cyclones. It has flooding, it has drought, it has sea level rise. Now, if we talk about Malaysia, Malaysia doesn't experience tropical cyclones. So for every country, there is a specific hazard, there is a specific disaster that might occur. But then again, before this disaster happens, we have to know the hazards, the exposure, and the vulnerability. So hope I was able to answer that question. Is it clear,
Yes.
Jason? I
It was
don't want
clear
to
to
sound so
me.
technical.
Thomas will have to let us know if it was clear to him. I understood that when you're a scientist, you look at these things and you categorize things and you look at all these details. The nuance is very important. We have another question from Thomas. He's asking about whether you believe that palm oil plantations contribute to climate change.
Oh,
I don't know if you've ever researched palm oil plantations.
um, it's not a palm oil plantation. What we have is because it's more on biodiesel. Biodiesel we use cooking oil because we really want to reduce your carbon footprint. And in Climate Smart, in the Philippines, there are two ways. We are not only assessing the risk, but we are also reducing your carbon footprint. And some of the researches that we did, this is what we call the low carbon diet. Okay, the low carbon diet because you want to reduce your carbon footprint. So where are the sources? For example, building, all right, transportation, okay, the types of fuel that you use, the types of vehicle that you use. So everyone contributes a carbon footprint. And it has to be what? It has to be estimated depending on the source. So if the source is agricultural sector, there are ways to do that. Now, if you talk about palm oil, there's a way, all right, there's a way to determine or estimate its carbon footprint, and you will be able to understand if palm oil contributes to carbon dioxide emissions. So it's more on the climate change mitigation, and that's the difference between the two. The climate change mitigation, which is about reducing your carbon footprint, all right, and the other one is climate change adaptation because we talk about how we manage the risk.
I think that's an excellent way of putting it. And it was what you were saying before, that we can look at many of the things that we're doing and we can figure out how can we make the situation better.
Yes.
People are going to need specific types of resources. They're going to grow certain types of crops. They're going to fish.
Yeah.
They're going to, all these things are going to occur. So it's not just saying, well, let's not do them at all. It's more about let's analyze how we can do this in the most sustainable and environmental friendly way that we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there will always be because that's a problem whenever we go to the communities because they don't know what climate change. All right, simple. Okay, or there's a rain, or should I say, or it's drizzling, and people will have, oh, it's climate change already. Of course not. So there are things that need to be explained in the communities. They need to be explained. The difference between climate change mitigation and adaptation. All right, the difference between rainfall and the climate trends and projections, what is going to happen in our area. So these are the things that we provide every time we do the rollout. So I am telling you, if we have 7,107 islands, we also have 7,107 explanations that we need to provide in order to understand the essence of climate change and how it's going to be mitigated and the different types of adaptation solutions that can be recommended.
Now you have so much to say and you are so passionate about these issues. So I'm sure we'll have some scientists listening to this program. What do you recommend that they do? How could they become involved in their communities? How could they work for you in your research institute? What recommendations do you have for the scientists listening to this show?
Yeah, we do always because I like collaborations because it's not only for the Philippines but even in Southeast Asia. And now I'm also doing some mentoring program. I'm one of the mentors in the Harvard Kennedy School, and I mentor our Harvard Kennedy School students. And like what I said, it's really more in collaboration. If you really want to create positive impacts or positive changes to the community, to your own country, you don't have to wait for your partners. You don't have to wait for a budget, right? You just have to figure it out how you're gonna do it because it will always be about your burning passion that will push you to do what you want. Okay, and always think that there will be challenges along the way. You're going to experience a lot of storms. You're going to experience a lot of enigmatic conditions, but then again, ignore them. All right, never stop. Just if you have the goal, and if you want to reach the zenith of success, or if you really want to really to create that positive changes, please ignore those challenges. Never mind those challenges, or else you won't be able to reach that goal. So I think that will be one of the things that I would like to share with everyone. Just be yourself. Have faith in your heart, and you have to look for the best people who are the believers of your program, who believe in you, and never mind those people who will put you down, who are holding you down. Never mind them, because life is always like that. Just be positive, have faith in your heart, believe in yourself, and definitely you will be able to reach your goal.
Mhm. And if someone wanted to become a researcher for your institute, what options exist for him or her?
It is for to become a research scientist in our research institute, because it's by invitation. So it's by invitation. So it's for me, you don't have to be a magna cum laude, you don't have to be a valedictorian to be a research scientist in the Environment and Climate Research Institute. I'm always after about the character of the person, because we talk to people. So if you have a bad attitude, definitely you will be rejected. For me, the most important thing is you have the heart for change, and you have the heart for people to be empowered. So that's it. You don't have to be a valedictorian. You don't have to have uh, outstanding academic background, because people can be trained. All right, people can be trained. The most important thing is you have the heart for change. That's it.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to have the heart for
And
change.
I also recommend to aspiring scientists that they seek out all the opportunities. There are lots of grants opportunities and fellowships. The United States right now is advertising a fellowship opportunity for women who are doing scientific research. We'll put the information in the link in the description below. But there are always competitions and grants available. There are opportunities for scientists of all ages, men and women, lots of opportunities.
Yes, yeah, because yeah, it's good. Because when we started with Environment and Climate Research Institute, because we're not known, we're nobody. Honestly, I'm nobody. I'm nothing compared to any other individuals in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia. But I didn't know people began to recognize our work by joining different competitions, joining fellowships, and sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. But then again, don't stop. All right, never give up, because it's really part of life. It's really part of the challenges. You just have to believe in yourself, have faith in your heart, and you will be able to reach your goal.
Glenn, you are definitely somebody. I would never describe you as nobody. You are definitely so
Thank
wow.
you.
It's amazing how quickly a half hour goes by. But I do want to ask you some fun questions, which I always ask my guests at the
Okay.
end of the show, just to get to know
Okay.
you a little bit better. So now you've already been to the United States, definitely, and you've been to Harvard, and you've been to some other places. But if you could travel to any city in the United States in 2022, which city would you pick?
Oh, I want to go back to the Rhode Island. I want to
Rhode Island.
visit the Rhode Island. Yes, I want to visit. I want to go back to the Vanderbilts. I was enchanted by those houses, how they were
Uh-huh,
built. Yes,
uh-huh.
and how they were built. I love those houses. And I think that's the very first thing that I would do. I want to go back to the United States, and I really want to visit the Rhode Islands.
Well, you're an engineer, so it doesn't surprise me that you would have an appreciation for architecture.
Yes,
So,
I
that's
love the houses. I love the infrastructures
yeah.
there.
I've been to more than half of the states in the United States,
Wow.
but it's a big country, and I have not been to Rhode Island yet. So maybe sometime when we're both in the United States at the same time, we can go to Rhode Island together.
Yes, yes.
Now, when I visit the Philippines, what is someplace special in the Philippines to which you would take me?
Oh, all right. That's a very good question. I have so many places to offer. I can bring you to Palawan. I can bring you to Boracay. I can bring you to Batangas. I can bring you to Mindanao, actually. So
Uh,
we have so many places to offer. Good beaches. What else? Food. I do not know if you like Filipino food. So there are many places to offer here.
tell me what is a Filipino food that every Southeast Asian should try?
In the Philippines, we have adobo. We also have sinigang, and we also have kare kare. So these are things I'm going to offer once you visit Manila. And I'll definitely
Uh-huh.
going to give you a tour. Yes, I'm going to give you a tour. We'll go to
So,
Palawan, we'll go to Boracay and Batangas.
so tell me one of those items. What is it? You told me the name, but I don't know what it is.
Adobo. It's there's pork in it, it's chicken, and there's soy sauce. I think it's
Mm,
everyone's favorite, and I think
mm.
most of the Filipinos love that dish. Then
Uh-huh.
I also love kare kare. It's not actually it's there are nuts there, so I do not know if you love nuts because I though it's my favorite, but since I've been suffering from gout, so
Oh,
I stopped eating curry curry, but that's one of my favorites. Yes.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I have gout by the way.
Oh, well,
But I'm going to give you a tour. Don't worry. There's no
part
problem
of
with that.
life. Part of life. So, if you could meet any American, a famous American person, celebrity, politician, who would you want to meet?
Oh, I want to meet my president, President Biden. Oh, I'm
Oh,
a
President.
huge fan. Yes, I'm a huge fan of President Biden.
Uh,
So I wish I could meet him in person. I wish I could go to Washington and to visit him because a part of my commitments as an awardee and as an honor of the U.S. government is to be the ambassador again, the ambassador for change, not only in the Philippines but also in Southeast Asia, and I will be his partner to promote the programs and projects of the United States again here in the Philippines, Southeast Asia, and that's what I've been doing actually, and and again, why President Joe Biden, well, he believes in climate change, and like what I said, I will be his partner to promote climate actions, climate advocacy projects, not only in Southeast Asia but in different parts of the Asia Pacific. So I
mhm.
really want to meet him. So President Biden, if you're listening, I'm a huge fan of yours. Hope to meet you in person.
Uh, I definitely hope you get that opportunity. I would love to
Yeah.
meet Biden in person too. I have not had that pleasure yet. Um, so I'm wondering, what is one of your favorite U.S. movies? Do you enjoy Day After Tomorrow, for example?
Yes, I watched it. I think
Uh,
one of my I have so many favorites favorite movies, US movies. Well, one of the things that struck me is what's that? 51st Dates. I love 51st Dates. Adam Sandler. Yes, I love it. Because it's about it's about patience, it's about love, unconditional love. So every day your wife, doesn't know you, and you have to tell her that you're the husband. It It doesn't really happen, right? I don't know if there is a case in the world that really that similar to what is what about similar to that movie. I never That's for me is very I always cry every time I watch that particular movie because it's about your what your unconditional love. So for instance, if I am Adam Sandler and the girl is my country, I'm going to do the same thing. All right, I'm going to give my wholehearted commitment to someone I love without expecting something in return. And I think that's the very essence of that particular movie, and that's the reason why I love it so much.
You have a lot of heart, Glenn. There's a lot of heart. You have a big brain and a big heart.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know that. Honestly, I don't know.
Uh, I just have to ask you one more question. Do you sometimes watch U.S. movies, and as from the perspective of a scientist, do you ever think, oh, they got that wrong? The science in that movie is wrong, or do you just let yourself go and enjoy the movie?
Oh yeah, just say that. I just let go and of course enjoy that movie. I don't want to. I don't want to. Well, to create. I don't want to create any negativity, or I don't want to question about the plot of that particular movie, because that's the work of an expert, and I do always respect the word of an expert. I'm not an expert in the movie. If that is the plot of the movie, I'm not going to question that, because I'm not going. Yeah, because that is his field, and I have to respect that decision. I have to respect the plot of that movie. So I don't actually ask. If that's the plot, then I have to accept it. Okay. Okay, that's cool. All right. So probably I'm just being rational, because it's the same thing. I'm a scientist. So if there is somebody who questions my work, so okay, I don't want to create any debate. I will just explain my side, and then I'm going to respect yours, but do please respect mine. So it's just a matter of we having respect with one another, respect our expertise, respect our field.
Well, Glenn, I could talk to you for another hour. So many interesting things about science and all the projects that you're doing. Do you have any final comments for our audience about the projects you're working on and how people can get more involved in the sciences?
Okay. Oh, thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to promote our projects in Southeast Asia and in Asia. Um, it's our fifth year in the science diplomacy program. So we are inviting outstanding scientists and engineers of Southeast Asia, because we are now extending it to Asia. The call for nominations for the outstanding science diplomats is now open. And the deadline of submission of nominations is on June 30. So please do apply. Now, another thing is we're going to open the call for papers for the Climate Smart and Disaster Resilient ASEAN. It's an international conference, but definitely we're going to do it virtually this year. It's the third international conference. So we are going to invite policymakers, scientists, decision makers to submit, all right, to submit their proposals, to submit papers. So if they want to become speakers, if they want to participate in the program, if they want to participate in the conference, so we'll send them the details. So that's it. And by the way, I would like to thank you. So I would like to thank the U.S. government. I would like to thank you, Jason, for having me. I would like to thank the U.S. mission to ASEAN, the U.S. Department of Affairs. So thank you so much for having me. So I really didn't know, again, honestly, I really didn't know that you would consider me, because as far as I know, I am nobody. I am just nothing. So thank you for having me.
Well, as I said earlier in the conversation, you are somebody, you're doing amazing things, you are following your passion, you are making a difference in your community and in Southeast Asia. You inspire a lot of leaders, a lot of researchers. You inspire me. So thank you so much for joining us for this show. So thanks everyone to the audience for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you click subscribe. I hope you continue to join us as we have future episodes. And if there's someone who you think we should be interviewing or a topic you'd like to hear more about, please let us know. So thanks everyone, and until the next episode. Oh,
So one
one more
more,
thing.
yeah. Again, thank you so much. So God bless the Philippines. God bless Southeast Asia. God bless America. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.